Hi everyone. I am excited to be giving you an overview of my research interests for Module 3, which also relates to my dissertation research, to get some feedback and to hear what you all have to say about my anticipated research methods and my progress so far in looking at how to plan for a mixed methods research study. So the goals that I have for this consultation are to receive feedback regarding a couple of different aspects of this research study. Specifically, I'd really like to hear about whether or not the methods that I've selected for data analysis, sampling procedures, and things like that are appropriate in relation to the research questions. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on data collection and analysis in general. I'm still not super comfortable with planning a mixed methods study, so any feedback on the specifics of data collection and analysis would be great. And then I'd also like to get some feedback on the amount of mixing that's appropriate and how to approach the rationale for mixing specific to the research topic. So to give a little bit of background on this research study, my primary area of specialization is early childhood special education. And prior to the pandemic, a lot of my research interest was focused on supporting teachers in inclusive early childhood settings to use evidence-based practices. And I was also really interested in research looking at the impacts of challenging behavior on suspension and expulsion of young children with disabilities and young children from traditionally marginalized populations. So now my research is really starting to shift to think about how to better support caregivers and parents now that young children are at home and, observing the barriers and challenges that parents have faced over the past several months in supporting their children, especially young children with disabilities who were unable to receive services virtually. I'm just feeling more and more passionate about the need to support caregivers and parents specifically to support social emotional development and reduce challenging behaviors. So I just have a few citations here to build a rationale. And basically, the definition that I like to use for challenging behaviors is any repeated pattern of behavior or perception of behavior that interferes with or is at risk of interfering with optimal learning or engagement in pro-social interactions with peers and adults. And this is not specific to a school setting, but can be in any child's natural environment. And research shows that without evidence-based intervention, it's unlikely that challenging behaviors will cease, nor will appropriate replacement behaviors be obtained. One way that researchers have found to be effective at increasing children's use of target skills, including social, emotional, and communication skills, and in turn reducing challenging behaviors, is through the use of embedded instruction. But all educators, including parents, will need support to implement embedded instruction with fidelity. Which leads me to an interest in providing coaching to caregivers to support their use of embedded instruction to support social emotional skills in their young children. So my research questions for this study are caregivers using evidence-based practices to support young children's social and emotional development during everyday activities and routines? What practices do caregivers report using during everyday activities and routines? And how do caregivers describe their experiences responding to challenging behaviors during everyday activities and routines? This study would include approximately 10 caregiver-child dyads with children between the ages of 3 to 5 years who exhibit persistent challenging behaviors. And caregivers must frequently interact with the child in the home setting during typical daily activities and routines. I really want to be observing how caregivers are interacting and responding to these challenging behaviors just as they normally would. This study would utilize purposive sampling. So I would be recruiting, obviously, a very specific population of caregivers and children. And I would be recruiting from local early childhood settings, including early intervention service providers, and most likely utilizing some social media sources to engage parents both locally and out of state, actually, because I would plan to do observations virtually using technology like iPads or iPhones for parents to record videos and then upload those videos for me to observe their interactions. My quantitative measure would be a 10-second interval coding system that's based on previous research to use while observing 10-minute interaction videos of caregiver-child interactions. To look at qualitative analysis, I would be conducting individual semi-structured interviews. So my quantitative measure is going to be correlating to research question 1, and qualitative measure will be seeking to answer research questions 2 and 3. I would analyze quantitative data from observations using descriptive statistics, including the mean and frequency of caregiver practices used, as well as the number of child challenging behaviors and the children's responses to caregiver practices. In order to analyze qualitative data, I would be using starter codes, aligns with the research questions, and utilizing an open coding process to identify units of meaning, and then moving into pattern coding to determine sub-themes from those units of meaning. Thinking back to some of Creamer's key features for mixed methods studies, I really see the purpose and the rationale of using mixed methods for this type of study to be complementarity and expansion. The priority in this study would really be looking at the quantitative data collection and analysis as having greater weight or priority, to look at the practices that are actually happening. And then the qualitative data will be used to answer those separate research questions, thinking about more of the self-report aspect. What do parents or caregivers report using? And what are their experiences when their child demonstrates challenging behaviors? Data collection would be sequential, with quantitative data collection first, followed by qualitative data collection. Data analysis would be convergent, with quantitative and qualitative data analyzed at the end and merged, expecting that mixing would be fully integrated. So I know this is a really brief overview of the research methods and what I plan to do, but I'd really just love to get any feedback about how I can strengthen the rationale for mixed methods. Do you think that the analysis and measures selected make sense given the research questions? And then really, what amount of mixing is appropriate for this study? Like I said, mixed methods is still trying to wrap my head around the use of mixed methods rather than a single case design or an intervention study like I'm used to, given my area of expertise. So yeah, I look forward to your feedback, and I really appreciate you taking the time to participate in my consultation.